Hello and welcome to this continuing First Look Exploring session looking at More Dissemblers Besides Women by Thomas Middleton. We've finished the first two acts and we've generally been enjoying it. There's also, it's a roller coaster ride of characters doing interesting things. As some of the character names you'll hear in a moment will suggest, we may be entering some more problematic material as we go into an introduction of some gypsies, so as defined within the play. So we're going to find out how problematic that is. Content warnings are listed in the show description, so do have a little look at that in case there's anything there. But otherwise, we're going to go into whatever this play is going to be doing with that, and hoping, fingers crossed, that it's not too bad. So we're going into Act 3 with these wonderful readers. So reading Dondolo and Celia today is...
Aaron from the Pacific Northwest of the United States.
Reading Second Lord, Duchess and Captain is...
Hi, I'm Lynn. I'm also in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Lactantio and Governor is...
Connor here in London.
Reading Page and Aurelia is...
Sarah in The Hague.
Reading Cardinal and Third Gypsy is...
Alan in Suffolk.
Reading First Lord Andrugio and Father is...
Rachel in Canada.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading some additional gypsies in the text, and we'll see what that throws out into the woodwork. So without further ado, we're going to start Act 3. Act 3, Scene 1. Enter Lactantio and Page.
Think of your shame and mine.
I prithee peace. Thou art the unfortunate piece of talking business, that ever man repented. When day peeped, I never keep such a piece of touchwood again. And I will rid of thee once. Welfare those that never shamed their master. I have had such that I may live to see the time again. I do not doubt on it.
If my too much kindness receive your anger only for reward, the harder is my fortune. I must tell you, sir, to stir your care up to prevention, misfortunes must be told as well as blessings. When I left all my friends in Mantua for your love's sake alone, then, with strange oaths, you promised present marriage.
With strange oaths, quotha they? That's not so strange to me. I have sworn the same things that I am sure 40 times over, or not so little. I may be perfect in them, for my standing.
You see, 'tis high time now, sir.
Yes. Marriage is nothing with you, a toy till death. If I should marry all those that I have promised, 'twould make me one vicar horse, or he could dispatch us. I must divide some shrift. When she grows big, those masculine horse will shortly prove too little. What if she were conveyed to a nurse's house? A good sure old wench, and should love the child well, because she'd sickled the father. No, I'll course by my mortality. I may hit worse.
Enter Dondolo.
Now, Dondolo, the news?
The news.
How does she?
Soft, sir, soft. You think 'tis nothing to get news out of the castle. I was there.
Well, sir.
As you know, a merry fellow may pass anywhere.
So, sir?
Never in better fooling in my life.
What's this to the purpose?
Nay, 'twas nothing to the purpose, that's certain.
How wretched this slave makes me. Didst not see her?
I saw her.
Well, what said she then?
Oh, not a word, sir.
How not a word?
Proves her the better made, for virgins should be seen more than they're heard.
Exceeding good, sir. You are no sweet villain.
No faith, sir, for you keep me in foul linen.
Turned scurvy rhymer, are you?
Not scurvy neither, though I be somewhat itchy in the profession. If you could hear me out with patience, I know her mind as well as if I were in her belly.
Thou saidst even now, she never spoke a word.
But she gave certain signs, and that's as good.
Canst thou conceive by signs?
Oh, passing well, sir. Even from an infant. Did you never know that? I was the happiest child in all our country. I was born of a dumb woman.
How?
Oh, stark dumb, sir. My father had a rare bargain of her, a rich pennyworth. There would have been but too much money given for her. A justice of peace was about her, but my father, being then constable, carried her before him.
Well, since we are entered into these dumb shrews, what were the signs she gave you?
Many and good, sir. Imprimis she first gaped, but that I guessed was done for want of air, 'cause she's kept close. But had she been abroad and gaped as much, there'd been another case. Then cast she up her pretty eye and winked. The word methought was then, "Come not till Twitter light." Next thus her fingers went, as who should say, "I'd fain have a hole broke to scape away." Then looked upon her watch, and twice she nodded, as who should say, "The hour will come, sweetheart, that I shall make 2 noddies of my keepers."
A third of thee. Is this your mother tongue? My hopes are much of the wiser for this language. There is no such course in love than to arrant an ass.
Oh, yes, sir, yes, an errant whore's far worse. You never Lynn railing on you never Lynn railing on me from one week's end to another. But you can keep a little titmouse page there, that's good for nothing but to carry toothpicks. Put up your pipe or so, that's all he's good for. He cannot make him ready as he should do. I am fain to truss his points every morning. Yet the proud, scornful ape, when all the lodgings were taken up with strangers the other night, he would not suffer me to come to bed to him, but kicked and pricked and pinched me like an urchin. There's no good quality in him. Oh, my conscience, I think he scarce knows how to stride a horse. I saw him with a little hunting nag, but thus high t'other day, and he was fain to lead him to a high rail, and get up like a butter wench. There's no good fellowship in this dandy prat, this dive dapper as is in other pages. They'd go a swimming with no familiarity in the heat of summer, and clap what you call 'em, but I could never get that little monkey yet to put off his breeches. A tender, puling, nice, chitty-faced squall 'tis.
Is this the good you do me? His love's wrenched and most distressed, that must take us for fools.
Fool to my face still. That's unreasonable. I will be a knave one day for this trick, or it shall cost me a fall, though it be from a gibbet. It has been many a proper man's last leap. Nay, sure, I'll be quite out of the precincts of a fool if I live but 2 days to an end. I will turn gypsy presently, and that's the highway to the daintiest knave that ever mother-son took journey to. Oh, those dear gypsies, they live the merriest lives, eat sweet stolen hens plucked over pales or hedges by a twitch. They are never without a plump and lovely goose or beautiful sow pig. Those things I saw with mine own eyes today, they call those vanities and trifling pilfries. But if a privy search were made amongst 'em, they should find other manner of ware about 'em, cups, rings, and silver spoons, by Our Lady, bracelets, pearl necklaces, and chains of gold sometimes. They are the wittiest thieves. I'll stay no longer, but even go look what I can steal now presently, and so begin to bring myself acquainted with them.
Exit Dondolo.
Nothing I fear so much as in this time of my dull absence, her first love, the general, will wind himself into her affection. By secret gifts and letters, there's the mischief. I have no enemy like him, though my policy dissembled him a welcome. No man's hate can stick more close unto a loathed disease than mine to him.
Okay, and here the Lord Cardinal enters, but we'll pause there just to sort of get our head back in the game, because remember, there's rather a few plot lines bouncing around, and it's all a bit confusing. And then Dondolo talked for ages about some stuff, and that probably didn't help. Some of it was to help set up the oncoming arrival of gypsies. But yeah, do you get the impression of the clowns vamping again? It's like, how much of this scene was really necessary? We had the page bit at the beginning. I was going, okay, we haven't heard much from the page for ages, and then this stuff happens. I'll go to Lynn, then Sarah, then Aaron.
Yeah. Rob once observed that time is cruel to comedy, and Dondolo might have been funny 400 years ago, but it's just kind of tedious now.
Well, it's also it's the fact that it's not integrated. I mean, that's what I'm objecting to mostly, is that he just comes on and does stuff. It's not like it's integrated within the rest of the comedy, which is doing specific work. He is just sticking out like a sore thumb. Sorry, continue.
Yeah. Well, his little disquisition on the page is kind of relevant because the page is standing right there. But and Lactantio, he's quite the player, isn't he? I've done that. I promised 40 women marriage, probably. About, if I married everybody that I promised to marry, the vicar would go hoarse officiating the ceremonies. Like, ugh. And I wonder how much of that is asides. Is he actually saying that to this woman he's compromised, or whatever?
Yes, there are a couple of putative asides in that scene that we didn't have marked, so I've been working on it.
I'm not really all that excited about Aurelia ending up with this guy, if that's how the play ends, because he's such a shit.
Sarah.
He certainly is. My question was, obviously, the sort of really famous clowns that I've heard of have passed by this point, I think, but was there a really, really famous clown from this era? Because I'm just wondering if this was given to someone who, people came to the theatre to see, because it's so, random and not really putting the plot forward at all. I'm just wondering if this was a star turn for somebody.
Almost certainly. I'm sure if we could ask Martin Wiggins, he would give us a name immediately. Right. But it's not really my area of expertise. Okay. So yeah, almost certainly it's for someone.
Which would explain why it's so kind of like.
It's probably someone like William Rowley or something like that.
Say Rowley, yeah.
Right.
He's definitely about at the time. He's someone who collaborates with Middleton. He's in the right company. That's your best bet. But it might not be. It might be something totally different.
So then Middleton would have written this for a particular actor, knowing that he had to kind of write a part for them, sort of. Yeah.
Yeah. Or let's certainly have the idea. Erin.
I don't think I've ever seen this before. Dondolo goes back and forth between verse and prose in the middle of the same line. Is that just new to me, or is that normal?
No, some of that is formatting. Some of that is debatable. I'm playing with this at the moment. Some of it I think is definitely in verse, and some of it is maybe not. But for a clown, I kind of expect that kind of ambiguity as to what's going on with their text. I'd expect something that functions as prose but maybe formatted as verse, or vice versa. It's that sort of problem with clowns.
We're talking about this being for a specific person. It made me wonder, okay, are there the lines Middleton wanted, and then you can do whatever you want, like, vamp, run, do your shtick, and then just make sure you get these lines out.
Well, the Master of the Revels would not approve of such activity, and we are crossing between two Master of the Revels at this time, one of whom, shall we say, was not desperately well, and the other one maybe he wasn't doing his job well enough at this point, but we'll come to that another day. This is the problem with discussing certain kinds of improvisation with this kind of text, is that these texts have to be fixed officially, and the official text has to be approved. Any improvisation is probably not here. Anything the clown is doing additionally is almost not is in a printed version that appears 20 years later. The odds on it coming from a clown as opposed to from the original author is quite low. And that's always the problem with talking about set piece things or things that this is our stuff. Is it's highly unlikely to get through the filters that early modern drama puts in place. That's not to say it didn't exist. It's just we probably don't have it. Any other thoughts before we continue the scene? Because we sort of paused the scene mid-flow. The page is still about, by the way. The page has just wandered off, being a bit miserable, presumably. And then this interlude with Dondolo occurred. And then enters the Lord Cardinal.
What ails this pretty boy to weep so long? Tell me the cause, child, how his eyes stand full. Beshrew you, nephew, you're too bitter to him. He is so soft, the unkindness of a word melts him into a woman. Alas, boy, thou shalt not serve him longer. 'Twere great pity that thou shouldst wait upon an angry master. I promise thee to one will make much of thee, and hold thy weak youth in most dear respect.
Oh, I beseech your grace that I may serve no master else.
Thou shalt not. Mine's a mistress, the greatest mistress in all Milan. Boy, the Duchess self.
Nor her, nor any.
Cease, boy. Thou knowest not thine own happiness through fondness, and therefore must be learned. Go dry thine eyes.
This rather is the way to make 'em moister.
Exit page.
Now, nephew.
Oh, you have snatched my spirits from the divinest meditation that ever made soul happy.
I'm afraid I shall have as much toil to bring him on now as I had pains to keep her off from him. I've thought it fit, nephew, considering the present barrenness of our name and house, the only famine of succeeding honour, to move the ripeness of your time to marriage.
How, sir? To marriage?
Yes, to a fruitful life. We must not all be strict, so generation would lose her right. Thou art young, 'tis my desire to see thee bestowed happily in my lifetime.
Does your grace well remember who I am when you speak this?
Yes, very perfectly. You're a young man, full in the grace of life, and made to do love credit, proper, handsome, and for affection, pregnant.
I beseech you, sir, take off your praises rather than bestow them upon so freely use. Alas, you know, sir, I know not what love is, or what you speak of. If women be amongst it, I shall swoon. Take her away for contemplation's sake. Most serious uncle, name no such thing to me.
Come, you're fond. Prove but so strict and obstinate in age, and you're well to pass. This honest love allowed you now for recreation. The years will come when all delights must leave you. Stick close to virtue then. In the meantime, there's honourable joys to keep youth company, and if death take you there, dying no adulterer, you're out of his eternal reach. Defy him. List hither, come to me, and with great thankfulness welcome thy fortune. 'Tis the Duchess loves thee.
The Duchess?
Dotes on thee, will die for thee, unless she may enjoy thee.
She must die then.
How?
Alas, do you think she ever means to do it, sir? I'll sooner believe all woman speaks than she'll die for love. She has a vow to my lord that will keep life in her.
Believe me then, that should have bounteous interest in thy faith. She's thine, and not of ours. The more my sorrow, my toil, and my destruction.
My blood dances.
And though that bashful maiden in thee, maiden virtue in thee, that never held familiar league with woman, binds fast all pity to her heart that loves thee, let me prevail. My counsel stands up to thee. Embrace it as the fullness of thy fortunes, as if all blessings upon earth were closed within one happiness. For such another whole life could never meet with. Go and present your service and your love, and on your hopes do it religiously. Indeed, I doubt him, whom chastity locks up.
Oh, envy! Hadst thou no other means to come by virtue, by such treachery? The Duchess love? Thou wouldst be sure to aim it high enough. Thou knewest full well 'twere no prevailing else. Sir, what your will commands, mine shall fulfil. I'll teach my heart in all to obey your will.
And enter our lords.
A thing you shall not lose by. Here come the lords. Go follow you the course that I advised you. The comfort of thy presence is expected. Away with speed to court. She languishes for one dear sight of thee. For life's sake, haste. You lose my favour if you let her perish.
And art thou come, brave fortune, the reward of neat hypocrisy that ever brooked it? Oh, turned up transitory white of the eye after the feminine rapture. Duchess and I were a fit match, can be denied of no man. The best dissembler lights on the best women. 'Twas sin to part us.
And exit Lactantio. And again, we'll just pause there. Let's just linger on the Cardinal here. You know, he was all very keen on the Duchess's chastity and things, and now, and of course, it all got turned around last time with this her fake interest in Lactantio, and now the Cardinal's really keen. He's not hanging around here, is he? By any stretch of the imagination. So, the plot sort of ticks along. Erin.
Have we been? Is this a scheme of the Cardinal, or is he genuinely like, oh well, she likes him? Did we get introduced to this in his speech?
Yeah, he does have a sense of this as being to his advantage on some level. So it is, yes, that's what she wants, but it's also on some level what he wants too now. Sarah.
Yeah, I can't quite remember the phrase, but he was talking about her fortune, wasn't he?
Mm.
And it wasn't fortune with a capital F, or maybe it was. I don't think it was. I think basically is she quite wealthy, and
well, she's the Duchess.
She's the Duchess, so yeah. So he's hoping, it's going to be a very advantageous marriage for his nephew.
Lynn.
Right, and he says something in this scene about, I can't remember the language, but it implies that the Cardinal has no other kin, that he has no other nephews or nieces, and like their line is going to die out if his nephew doesn't marry and have children. So there's that motivation, and which was something that mattered in this era. It still matters to a lot of people that they have progeny that they continue into the future. So he's probably got money. If he's a cardinal, they often come from the upper classes, or like Cardinal Wolsey did not. But so, their family has money. So, it's good for his prestige. It's good for the family's financial standing and for their prestige. So, yeah, and he has a little monologue right after the scene where he says, no, where he's like, well, actually, come to think of it, So, we did see him turn around.
Now, just flitting back to earlier in the scene when we had Dondolo intersecting with the action on some level. Now, there was some stuff that was sort of foreshadowing to the gypsy plot that we're about to enter. Was there anything there you thought was essential or added anything in that sequence? Because I was just putting in the chat earlier that it felt like the scene, that little bit with the page and the Cardinal, should follow directly on from the bit before. It felt like the page is just having to stand around at the back of the stage crying for ages while Dondolo does his shtick, and it feels like that's been inserted into the text, because I don't know that it's explicitly adding something. It might be that there's some material that's moved around, but I am now starting to actively think about this clown part has been beefed up and or inserted at some point during the life of this play, because that felt really untidy in a way that I didn't feel was necessary. I'll go to Aaron, then Alan.
The only thing that's jumping out was the communication from Dondolo about, how she wants to be rescued. I don't know if that's going to come to play a factor or not. So to answer your question, that doesn't see. I don't know the rest of the play, so I don't know if that's going to eventually pay off.
I mean, we do have other instances where a character may inherit some other person's dialogue when a character gets inserted. I'm thinking specifically ahead to Game at Chess, where one of the parts has their dialogue given to another character who is inserted, and the other character does some stuff. So it may be that there is some stuff going on there. It's just a theory. I'm just throwing it out there. Alan, then Sarah, then we will move on.
Yeah, I think you mentioned that there was a court performance of this in 1624, was it?
Yes, there was 1624.
And I just wonder whether Dondolo's role was actually beefed up for the purposes of that, if the comic had gone down well previously at court.
It's a good question. I mean, the problem is, say, it's such a late text that we don't know precisely what stages might exist. It's not like other, like Game at Chess, where we have 8 different versions of the script. We've got one version. It's the print copy that was published during the interregnum, so we don't really know. But it's a good thought, Sarah.
I mean, it would be interesting to workshop that scene in a room and see what would happen if all the way through that clown exchange with Lactantio, the page was just crying. Because clearly by the time the Cardinal comes in, she's worked herself up into quite a state, because he's like, oh my God, this page is always crying. So I don't know, that might maybe either make it funnier or just make it even more painful, actually, if there's just somebody who, with every exchange, especially the ones that, refer to her and to pregnancy and whatnot, like she's just like, "Aah!" And then there's like just punctuating it, and it's getting louder and louder, and she's getting more and more like upset. I don't know what that would do to the scene, whether it would kind of integrate it more, but it would be interesting to play around with it though and find out.
Aaron.
I wonder if what we were reading when we read the scene, I wonder if those pauses or that weird kind of stuttering between Dondolo and Lactantio, I think Sarah might be right. What if those are actually being interrupted by the wailing in the background? So it's like, what's the news? So there's a constant, we're trying to have a talk here while she's going on. Maybe that's what was missing.
Okay, well, let's gather more data and we go forward, because we're still midway through a scene. Lactantio has finally left the building, and the Cardinal is left with a couple of lords.
You like to state, truth's friends and much-honoured lords, faithful admirers of our Duchess' virtues and firm believers, it appears as plain as knowledge to the eyes of industry that neither private motion, which holds counsel often with women's frailty and her blood, nor public sight, the lightning of temptations, which from the eye strikes sparks into the bosom and sets whole hearts on fire, have power to raise a heat in her above that which feeds chaste life, and gives that cherishing means. She's the same still, and seems so seriously employed in soul, as if she could not tend to cast an eye on desserts so low as those in man. It merits famous memory, I confess. Many times when I behold her youth, and think on the lost hopes of posterity, succession, and the royal fruits of beauty, all by the rashness of one vow made desperate, it goes so near my heart, I feel it painful, and wakes me into pity oftentimes when others sleep unmoved.
I speak it faithfully, for 'tis poor fame to boast of a disease. Your grace has not endured that pain alone. 'Has been a grief of mine, but where's the remedy?
True, there your lordship spake enough in little. There's nothing to be hoped for but repulses. She's not to seek for armour against love, that has bid battle to his powers so long. He that should try her now had need come strong, and with more force than his own arguments, or he may part disgraced, being put to flight. That soldier's tough, has been in 7 years' fight, her vows invincible. But you must grant this, if those desires, trained up in flesh and blood, to war continually against good intents, prove all too weak for her, having advantage both of her sex and her unskilfulness at a spiritual weapon, wanting knowledge to manage resolution and yet win. Force can a poor argument bring. The books that I have published in her praise commend her constancy, and that's fameworthy. But if you read me o'er with eyes of enemies, you cannot justly and with honour tax me that I dissuade her life from marriage there. Now heaven and fruitfulness forbid, not I. She may be constant there, and the hard war of chastity is held a virtuous strife, as rare in marriage as in single life. Nay, by some writers, rarer. Hear their reasons, and you'll approve them fairly. She's that single, either in maid or widow. Oftentimes the fear of shame, more than the fear of heaven, keeps chaste and constant. When the tempest comes, she knows she has no shelter for her sin. It must endure the weathers of all censure. Nothing but sea and air that poor bark feels, when she in wedlock is like a safe vessel that lies at anchor. Come what weathers can, she has her harbour. At her great unlading, much may be stolen and little waste. The master thinks himself rich enough with what he has, and holds content by that. Now think ye now, lords, if she that might offend safe does not err, what's chaste in others is most rare in her.
What wisdom but approves it?
But my lord, this should be told to her it concerns most. Pity such good things should be spoken lost.
That were the day to lose 'em utterly, quite forget her vow. Yet now I think on't, what is that vow? 'Twas but a thing enforced, was it not, lords?
Merely compelled, indeed.
Only to please the Duke, and forced virtue fails in her merit. There's no crown prepared for it. What have we done, my lords? I fear we have sinned in too much strictness to uphold her in it, in cherishing her will. Her woman's goodness takes counsel of that first, and then determines she cannot truly be called constant now, if she persever, rather obstinate, the vow appearing forced as it proves, tried by our purer thoughts. The grace and triumph of all her victories are but idle glories. She wilful, and we enemies to succession. I will not take rest till I tell her soul as freely as I talk to those I keep.
And we'll all
We'll all
second
second
you,
you, my lord.
Agreed. So, and we'll knit such knots of arguments so fast, or wit in her shall not undo in haste.
Nay, sure, I think all we shall be too hard for her. Else she's a huge wild creature.
If we win and she yield marriage, then will I strike in.
And exeunt. So that was a nice speech. It was, I like a long speech.
You didn't have to read it.
Yeah.
God, goes on.
What did we get out of this at the end? Did they all just sort of is this just a cardinal betting scandal that's going on here? Is this basically what they're doing? I'm very unclear actually what any of that ended up deciding. Sarah than Lynn.
I mean, maybe I missed something. My mind did wander. I think all that happened there was he basically set himself up with his usual spiel, which he always has to the lords, which is, oh, the Duchess is so cool because she's, so chaste and is never going to marry. And they're like, yeah, of course. And then he's like, but, were she to marry, that would not necessarily be a bad thing. I think that's pretty much that entire scene. And the only thing that I took out of it, really, that forwarded the plot, although I can't imagine it's going to be a massive plot deal because he's called First Lord.
It's Middleton. Just because they don't have a name doesn't mean anything.
That's true. Because right at the end here, he says, if we win and she yield marriage, then will I strike in? So he's clearly thinking, if the Duchess is going to come around to the idea of marriage, I'm getting in there. I'm proposing tomorrow. So I mean, maybe that's going to be a plot line, but all I can say is if that's the only bit of forwarding of the story that I found in that entire section. But I might have missed stuff.
There is an awful lot in this scene, and a lot of it I'm not quite sure really if it's entirely necessary. I'm thinking there's a lot of blue pencil going in this scene. A lot. Lynn, then Alan.
I think it's just Middleton wants to make a gag about how sycophantic the lords are. Because in the beginning, maybe even the first scene of the play, or second scene of the play, the Cardinal is going on about how much he admires the Duchess for sticking to her vow for 7 years. And the lords are like, yeah, you're right. And now he's like, she was compelled to make that vow. And there's really no mileage in that. And legitimate marriage and legitimate issue are a good thing. Maybe she should get married. And they're all like, yeah, you're right. So, I mean, I think that's just the joke, is that the lords are just a bunch of kiss asses.
It's Meet the Blob from Merrily We Roll Along. Alan.
Yeah, there was something that confused me in the middle of that epic from the Cardinal. He's just sent Lactantio off to court the Duchess, but a large chunk of the middle of that speech would seem rather more appropriate if the prospective suitor he was described was the General Andrugio.
Well, I don't disagree. I mean, but the play is full of martial language like that. There's an awful lot of that kind of thing to do with, if we think about the governor, who we didn't really talk about last time enough, has basically secured a future wife by locking her away in a fort. There's a lot of this sort of to do with barriers and people being locked away and martial assaults and things like that. There's a lot of that, and there's a lot of that in love poetry generally of the time. I think that is deliberate, and is part of the schema of what the play is talking about. Anyway. Sycophancy, hypocrisy, these are the themes that keep us all together. Act 3, Scene 2, enter Duchess and Celia.
Thou tell'st me happy things, if they be certain, to bring my wishes about wondrous strangely. Lactantio, nephew to the Cardinal, the General's secret enemy.
Most true, madam. I had it from a gentleman, my kinsman, that knows the best part of Lactantio's bosom.
It happens passing fortunately to save employment in another. He will come now, a necessary property. He may think the need and use we have of him for his welcome. He may thank the need and use of him we have for his welcome.
And there's some knocks within.
Who's that knocks?
Madam, 'tis he, with speed. Oh, I thought he had brought his horse to the chamber door, he made such haste and noise.
Omit him, prithee. And have a care your heart be true and secret.
Take life away from it when it fails you, madam.
Exit Celia, enter Lactantio.
Enough, I know thee wise. He comes with haste indeed. Are you come now, sir? You should have stayed yet longer, and have found me dead to requite your haste.
Love bless you better, madam.
Must I bid welcome to the man undoes me, to cause my vows breach, my honor's enemy, one that does all the mischief to my fame, and mocks my 7 years' conquest with his name? This is a force of love was never felt. But I'll not grudge it, fortune. I will take captivity cheerfully. Here, seize upon me, and if thy heart can be so pitiless to chain me up forever in those arms, I will take it mildly, aye, and thank my stars, for we are all subject to the chance of wars.
We are so. Yet take comfort, vanquished Duchess. I'll use you like an honourable prisoner. You shall be entreated, day shall be your free for all your sports to you, the night for me. That's all I challenge, all the rest is thine, and through your fare shall be no worse than mine.
Nay, then I'm heartily pleasant, and as merry as one that owes no malice. And that's well, sir. You cannot say so much for your part, can you?
Faith, all that I owe is to one man, madam, and so can few men say. Marry, that malice wears no dead flesh about it. 'Tis a stinger.
What is he that shall dare to be your enemy, having your friendship if he be a servant and subject to our law?
Yes, trust me, madam, of a vired fellow, I'll hold him a true subject. There's many arrant knaves that are good subjects, some for their living's sake, some of their lives that will unseen, eat men and drink their wives.
They are as much in fault that know such people, and yet conceal them from the whips of justice. For love's sake, give me in your foe betimes. Before he vex you further, I will order him to your heart's wishes, load him with disgraces, that your revenge shall rather pity him than wish more weight upon him.
Say you so, madam? Here's a blessed hour that feeds both love and hate. Then take this thy time, brave malice, virtuous princess, the only enemy that my vengeance points to, lives in Andrugio.
What, the general?
That's the man, madam,
Are you serious, sir?
as at my prayers.
We meet happily then in both our wishes. He's the only man my will has had a longing to disgrace for diverse capital contempts. My memory, I'll bring his faith in war now into question, and his late conference with the enemy.
By a lady, a shrewd business, and a dangerous signora. Your necks are cracking.
Stay, sir. Take pen and ink.
Here's both, and paper, madam.
I'll take him in a fine trap.
That were excellent.
A letter so writ would abuse him strangely.
Good, madam, let me understand your mind, and then take you no care for his abusing. I'll serve for nothing else. I can write fast and fair, most true, orthography, and observe my stops.
Stay a while. You do not know his hand.
A bastard Roman, much like my own. I could go near, madam.
Marry, and shall.
We were once great together, and writ Spanish epistles one to another to exercise the language.
Did you so? It shall be a bold letter of temptation, with his name to it, as writ and sent to me.
Be no better, lady. Stick there, madam, and never seek further.
Begin thus. Fair Duchess, say. We must use flattery if we imitate man. 'Twill never be thought his pen else.
Most fair Duchess.
What need you have put in most, since 'tis in, let it even go on. Few women would find fault with it. We all love to be best, but seldom mend. Go on, sir.
Most fair Duchess. Here's an admiration point.
The report of your vow shall not fear me.
Fear me, 2 stops at fear me.
I know you are but a woman.
But a woman, a comma at woman.
And what a woman is, a wise man knows.
Wise man knows. A full prick there.
Perhaps my condition may seem blunt to you.
Blunt to you. A comma here again.
But no man's love can be more sharp set.
Sharp set. There's a colon. A colon is sharp set oftentimes.
And I know desires in both sexes have skill at that weapon.
Skill at that weapon. A full prick here. At weapon.
So, that will be enough. Subscribe it thus now. One that vows service to your affections, Signor such a one.
Signor Andrugio G. That stands for general.
And you shall stand for Goosecap. Give me that. Betake you to your business speedily, sir. We give you full authority from our person in right of reputation, truth, and honor to take a strong guard and attach his body. That done, bring him presently before us. Then we know what to do.
My hate finds wings. Man's spirit flies swift to all revengeful things.
Exit Lactantio.
Why, here's the happiness of my desires. The means safe, suspected far from thought. His state is like the world's condition right, greedy of gain, either by fraud or stealth. And whilst one toils, another gets the wealth.
Exit Duchess. We haven't had a letter writing scene for a while. Always nice to have one of those. Let me talk you through punctuation. Some double entendres in there. As ever, it's one of those things of going, there's a cunning plan going on here. It's terribly cunning. I'm not sure how clearly it has been explained what the cunning plan is. I sort of know what the cunning plan is, but I'm not sure I actually know what the cunning plan is. But I'm still going with it. Alan.
Yeah, I'm just wondering whether we're getting a setup here for another one of these ones where something which sounds relatively innocent or one interpretation when first dictated, when read back with the punctuation as suggested, is a completely different meaning.
I don't. It is a gag we've had before. I don't know if that's what's going to happen here, but it's certainly an option. I think the Duchess is being very devious. Yes, in terms of this, and Lactantio. I mean, how many plates does he want to be spinning at this point? Really?
He's not actually the brightest star in the sky, is he?
Is he not, indeed?
But yeah, there's a lot to play at here, and things. But I am as ever with this place. It's like, yeah, I kind of understand the game, but I'm not quite sure of the details as to why exactly everything is happening as it does. But hey, that's fine. I can sort of see where it's going. But yeah, that's something to sort out. Any other thoughts before we go into Act 4? Okay, we've been with one plot line with Lactantio for pretty much all of Act 3. We haven't heard much from Andrugio. Andrugio, very much part of the other plot line. The general, who this false letter has been written on behalf of. Act 4, Scene 1. Enter Andrugio.
Now, Fortune, show thyself the friend of love. Make her way plain and safe. Cast all their eyes that guard the castle into a thicker blindness than thine own, darker than ignorance or idolatry, that in that shape my love may pass unknown, and by her freedom set my comforts free. This is the place appointed for our meeting. Yet comes she. I am covetous of her sight. That gypsy habit alters her so far from knowledge that our purpose cannot err. She might have been here now by this time largely, and much to spare. I would not miss her now in this plight for the loss of a year's joy. She's ignorant of this house, nor knows she where or which way to bestow herself through fear.
Enter Lactantio with a guard.
Close with him, gentlemen. In the Duchess's name, we do attach your body.
How, my body? What means this rudeness?
You add to your offences, calling that rudeness. At his fair command, immaculate justice, and the Duchess's pleasure.
Signor Lactantio, oh, are you the speaker?
I am what I am made.
Show me my crime.
I fear you will have too many strewn on you, sir.
The father of untruths possesses thy spirit, as he commands thy tongue. I defy fear, but in my love it only settles there.
Bring him along.
Let law's severest brow bend at my deeds. My innocence shall rise a shame to thee and all my enemies.
You are much the happier man.
Oh, my hard crosses, grant me the third part of 1 hour's stay.
Sir, not a minute.
Oh, she's lost.
Away.
And they exit. So that was a quick turnaround from the letter. Again, the letter's been used in some way to get him arrested, and he's out of the way. There we are. Wow, bish bash bosh. Play ends. There we are. But we do have a bit of an important exposition setting up in Act 4 that we have a disguise. That gypsy habit alters her so far from knowledge, etc. So we have disguised as a gypsy, as broadly speaking set up earlier, and I'm sure that won't be in any way problematic or an issue. I'm sure it'll all be fine. I'm not convincing anyone, am I? Okay, so a very efficient scene, not very long. Broadly speaking, did what it needed to do. Andrugio's been attached, and Lactantio's going, yay. And Andrugio's going, oh no, the cunning plan. She's over there doing the cunning plan, but I can't help with the cunning plan. The cunning plan may go horribly wrong. I've forgotten what the cunning plan was. Anyway, Lynn.
The Duchess's cunning plan is she's going to pretend that Andrugio wrote her this love letter so that she can have an excuse to arrest him and then be alone with him. And
no, it's Aurelia's cunning plan. I can't remember what it was.
Oh, I can't remember Aurelia's.
I can't remember why she's disguised and why the gypsies are involved at all. This is a problem for us because it's been 24 hours since we did the bit before, or at least for me. Lynn, then Alan, then Sarah.
It occurs to me, though, that if Lactantio and the Duchess were actually telling each other the truth, they could actually work it out. Because Lactantio isn't interested in the Duchess, and she isn't interested in him, and she could just say, I mean, you know, if she could just say, I'm in love with Andrugio. Can you help me get with him? He'd be like, whatever, I don't like him. But if you are married to Andrugio, then he's not, then I don't have to worry about him as a rival for Aurelia's love. So yeah, I'll help you get with him because it gets him out of my way. It's like they actually want the same thing. But they're going about it in this like really duplicitous way. That's very clever on Middleton's part, I think.
Yeah. So Aurelia was at the fort where she was being held by the governor, and the disguise is so she can escape. Yes. Now I remember these details. Alan, then Sarah, then.
Yeah, I think her cunning plan is that she wants to get free from A, the attention of Andrugio, and B, the custodianship or influence of both the governor and her father, because she still thinks that Lactantio's a good guy.
Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, I just wanted to say Lynn is right. That is the Duchess's plot. There's two plots going on. So the plot from the last scene that Andrugio is talking about, where he's like, "Oh God, I can't go and meet her. She doesn't know where the house is. She's never been here before. I'm supposed to be showing her the way. Shit, it's all going pear-shaped." That plot is the Aurelia plot. He's helping her to escape dressed as a gypsy. But the plot that Lynn was referring to was was the Duchess's plot, which is now being enacted in this scene because Lactantio's arresting Andrugio to take him back to the Duchess so that the Duchess can have some quality time alone with him, because of course that's the best way to, get to know a person, is to have them arrested and brought to you.
Yes, as we all know, we've all done that. Who hasn't done that? Okay, let's enter Problematicville. Act 4, Scene 2. Enter Aurelia like a gypsy.
I'm happily escaped. Not one pursues me. This shape's too cunning for him. All the sport was, the porter would needs know his fortune of me as I passed by him. 'Twas such a plunge to me, I knew not how to bear myself. At last I did resolve of somewhat, looked in his hand, then shook my head, bade him make much on his eyes, he would lose his sight clean long before he dies. And so away went I. He lost the sight of me quickly. I told him his fortune truer for nothing than some of my complexion that would have cozened him of his money. This is the place of meeting. Where's this man now, that has took all this care and pains for nothing? The use of him is at the last cast now, should only bring me to my former face again and see me somewhat cleanlier at his cost, and then farewell Andrugio. When I am handsome, I'm for another straight. I wonder troth that he would miss me thus. I could have took many occasions besides this to have left him. Not in want. He need not give me any. A woman's will has still enough to spare to help her friends, and need be. What? Not yet? What will become of me in this shape, then? If I know where to go, I'm no dissembler, and I'll not lose my part in one woman so for such a trifle to forswear myself. But comes he not indeed?
Enter Dondolo.
Oh, excellent, by this light here's one of them. I thank my stars. I learnt that phrase in the Half-Moon Tavern. By your leave, good gypsy, I pray, how far off is your company?
Oh, happiness! This is the merry fellow my love. Senor Lactantio takes delight in. I'll send him away speedily with the news of my so strange and fortunate escape, and he'll provide my safety in an instant. My friend, thou serves Senor Lactantio.
Who I serve? Gypsy, I scorn your motion. And if the rest of your company give me no better words, I will hinder him the stealing of more pulley than 50 poulterers were ever worth, and prove a heavier enemy to all their pig booties. They shall travel like Jews that hate swine's flesh and never got a sow by the ear all their lifetime. I serve Lactantio. I scorn to serve anybody. I am more gypsy-minded than so. Though my face look of a Christian color, if my belly were ripped up, you shall find my heart as black as any patch about you. The truth is, I am as arrant a thief as the proudest of your company, all except none. I am run away from my master in the state of a fool, and till I be a perfect knave, I never mean to return again.
I'm never the happier for this fortune now. It did but mock me.
Here they come, here they come.
Enter a company of gypsies, men and women with booties of hen and ducks, etc., singing. There is music, there is song.
Come, my dainty doxies, my dells most dear. We have neither house nor land, yet never want good cheer.
We never want good cheer.
We take no care for candles, rents.
We lie.
We snort.
We sport intense, then rouse betimes and steal our dinners. Our store is never taken without pigs, hens, or bacon, and that's good meat for sinners. At wakes and fairs we cozen, for country folks by dozen. And if one have money, we disperses, while some tell fortunes, some pick purses. Rather than be out of use, we'll steal garters, hose, and shoes, boots or spurs with jingling rowels, shirts or napkins, smocks or towels. Come live with us, all you that love your eases. He that's a gypsy may be drunk or tipsy, at what hour he pleases.
We laugh, we quaff, we roar, we scuffle, we cheat, we drab, we filch, we snuffle.
Oh, sweet, they deserve to be hanged for ravishing of me.
What will become of me if I seem fearful now, or often offer sudden flight? Then I betray myself. I must do neither.
Usabel, Kamchateroon, Huskatelian, Howdrows.
Rumble Stagdalon, a la Pisket in Sow's Clows, oh.
A biscuit in house clout, I shall never keep a good tongue in my head till I get this language.
Umbrafil, Kevoliden, Magropai.
He calls her Magoapai.
I love your language well, but understand it not.
Ha!
I am but lately turned to your profession, yet from my youth I ever loved it dearly, but never could attain to it. Steal I can. It was a thing I ever was brought up to. My father was a miller, and my mother a tailor's widow.
She's a thief on both sides.
Give me thy hand. Thou art no bastard born. We have not a more true-bred thief among us.
Not any, Captain.
I pray, take me into some grace amongst you two, for though I claim no goodness from my parents to help me forward into your society, I had 2 uncles that were both hanged for robberies, if that will serve your turn, and a brave cut-purse to my cousin German. If kindred will be taken, I am as near akin to a thief as any of you that had fathers and mothers.
What is it thou requirest, noble cousin?
Cousin, nay, and we be so near akin already. Now we are sober, we shall be sworn brothers when we are drunk. The naked truth is, sir, I would be made a gypsy as fast as you could devise.
A gypsy?
Aye, with all the speed you can, sir. The very sight of those stolen hens eggs me forward horribly.
Here's dainty ducks, too, boy.
I see 'em but too well. I would they were all rotten roasted and stuffed with onions.
Lovest thou the common food of Egypt, onions?
Aye, and garlic too. I have smelt out many a knave by it, but I could never smell mine own breath yet, and that's many a man's fault. He can smell out a knave in another, sometimes 3 yards off, yet his nose standing so nigh his mouth he can never smell out himself.
A pregnant gypsy.
A most witty sinner.
Stretch forth thy hand, coz. Art thou fortunate?
How? Fortunate? Nay, I cannot tell that myself, wherefore do I come to you but to learn that? I have sometimes found money in old shoes, but if I had not stolen more than I have found, I had had but a scurvy, thin-cheeked fortune on it.
Here's a fair table.
Aye, so has many a man that is given over housekeeping, a fair table when there's neither cloth nor meat upon it.
What a brave line of life's here, look you, gypsies.
I have known as brave a life end in a halter.
But art thou born to precious fortune?
The devil I am.
Bata bucket o.
How to beat bucks?
Stiale bacano.
Oh, to steal bacon! That's the better fortune of the two, indeed.
Thou wilt be shortly captain of the gypsies.
I would you'd make me corporal i' the meantime, or standard bearer to the women's regiment.
Much may be done for love.
Nay, here's some money. I know an office comes not all for love. A pox of your lime twigs, you have it already.
It lies but here in cash for thine own use, boy.
Nay, and lie there once, I shall hardly come to the fingering on't in haste. Yet make me an apt scholar, and I care not. Teach me but so much gypsy, to steal as much more from another, and the devil do you good of that.
Thou shalt have all thy heart requires. First, here's a girl for thy desires. This doxy fresh, this new-come dell, shall lie by thy sweet side and swell. Get me gypsies brave and tawny, with cheeks full plump and hip full brawny. Look you prove industrious dealers to serve the Commonwealth with stealers, that the unhoused race of fortune tellers may never fail to cheat town dwellers, or to our universal grief leave country fairs without a thief. This is all you have to do, save every hour a filch or two, be it money, cloth, or pullen, when the evening's brow looks sullen. Lose no time, for then 'tis precious. Let your sleights be fine, facetious, which hoping you'll observe to try thee, with rusty bacon, I gypsify thee.
Do you used to do it with bacon?
Evermore.
By this light, the rats will take me now for some hog's cheek and eat up my face when I am asleep. I shall have never a bit left by tomorrow morning, and lying open mouthed as I used to do, I shall look for all the world like a mouse trap baited with bacon.
Why, here's a face like thine, so done, only grained in the sun, and this and these.
Faith, then there's a company of bacon faces of you, and I am one now to make up the number. We are a kind of conscionable people, and 'twere well thought upon for to steal bacon, and black our faces with it. 'Tis like one that commits sin, and writes his faults in his forehead.
Wit, whither wilt thou?
Marry, to the next pocket I can come at, and if it be a gentleman's, I wish a whole quarter's rent in it. Is this mine doc out nettle? What's gypsy for her?
Your doxy, she.
Oh, right. Are you my doxy, sirrah?
I'll be thy doxy and thy dell. With thee I'll live, for thee I'll steal. From fair to fair, from wake to wake, I'll ramble still for thy sweet sake.
Oh, dainty fine doxy. She speaks the language as familiarly already as if she'd begot of a canter. I pray, captain, what's gypsy for the hind quarter of a woman?
Nosario.
Nosario. What, that's gypsy for my nose, then?
Why, Arsenio.
Arsenio. Faith, methinks you might have devised a sweeter word for it.
And we're going to pause as the father and governor enter, as we need to take stock of some things. We were sitting there going, well, it's sort of bouncing along, it's doing some interesting family things, and then we get to this scene, and okay, it's not the most aggressively anti-gypsy text we've seen, but it's got several really, really big problems, because it's basically just saying, gypsies, they're all thieves, and we've got confirmation that Aurelia it has been at least browned up on some level, and not only that all gypsies are browned up on some level with bacon. And that there's a whole series of things that are sort of just quietly, slowly layered in into what this doing. Now, at the moment, there's an interesting question as to how much of this is actually plot driven. So I'm starting to go, okay, well, maybe we can get rid of a lot of this just straightforwardly in terms of what is the function here. But yeah, it just keeps getting slowly worse. It's like it just drip. It's not like it's immediately shocking. Oh my God, what are you doing? It's no. Oh no, we're just going to slowly ease you into the othering that's going on in this text. Sarah, you were waving.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know yet, but I'm just wondering if, because this play is doing well so far, it's I feel it's worth, depending on how it turns out, of course, I feel it's worth maybe trying to rescue. I wonder if you could turn the captain into the king of thieves and just cut out all the... I don't know how much... I mean, you'd have to cut out a lot, but I wonder if you could sort of just cut out a lot of the stuff. The sort of the references to, skin being dark and all of that.
I mean, when we're talking about what needs to be cut here, at the moment I'm still waiting for something that needs to be in.
Yeah, true. True.
There's very little here apart from Aurelia's escaped at the moment, there may be some connective tissue because the father and governor are entering here, so there
They're
may
just
be some
turning
stuff
up.
here. But actually, it might be that we get to the end of this and we just go, none of this is actually necessary. None of this necessarily. And it's not like a play like the Spanish Gypsy where you're going, well, what do we call the play if we change the gypsies? Whereas here at the moment, it just feels like such a sideways motion. And at the moment, again, it's just to give Dondolo a thing to do. And as that's the character I'm increasingly thinking doesn't need to be here at all. I'm not having a problem with most of his dialogue getting cut because because again we're talking on a structural in terms of technical ability of what Middleton is doing here. This is on an aerial view a very fun scene. The dialogue bounces along, the songs are silly. It's just representationally awful. And no is what's going on there. Anyway, Alan, then Lynn.
It's got the feeling to me of a riff that's been dumped in here without having that much connective tissue to the main plot, apart from the fact that you've located Dondolo and Aurelia into this group of outlaws, whatever they be. But then beyond that, it's, let's have some nonsense language in there. Let's see if we can stick in a few bawdy puns or whatever. But it's not actually moving the plot so far forward.
Yes, I mean, if it was set in England, we'd just make him Robin Hood, and we'd be fine in that sense, because you could just improv and work around some other material that we've already got. Erin, were you waving? I think.
I was, but I think I'm wrong. I'm looking back and I'm trying to see if all of the stuff about being thieves and so on is purely coming from Dondolo, and if it could, part of me wanted to hope that the gypsies were like, okay, this guy's creepy, but no, there's stuff coming from the other side where they're like, oh yeah, we steal our, so
they are very proud of
their,
they're very proud of their thievery. That's not going to stay in. Okay, so I think we need more data to make a proper assessment and see where this goes. It may be that we need to do something to fill the gap because there may be some connective tissue that we would lose taking this out. But, no spoilers here, by the way. There are no other scenes with this lot in. That isn't to say that the plot line doesn't continue on some level or incidents here aren't important. But in terms of I don't recall in next session that we have any gypsy or captain. I don't think any of them come back. Lynn.
Set it in 1950s America and make them a motorcycle gang. I mean, Dondolo's first scene with the page is structurally important because it's like a buffer scene between two appearances of the Cardinal, I think. But you might be able to shuffle scenes around, and I think you can cut Dondolo's whole character.
Yeah, I suspect that what's happened here is that that there's been a beefing up of this script to give someone like Rowley a bigger part that is a set series of set pieces, and they've had to be slotted in to the action of the play as it stands. Now there might have been a little scene with the page, and there might not have been. Again, that might be a transition from an indoor to an outdoor playhouse thing. But I don't know that Dondolo does anything. I'm just checking. Is he in tomorrow? No, I don't think he's in the next section. So I think this is it for him. So depending on how much connective tissue we need to move the plot onto the next point for Aurelia, and that's an important question. And there are some things you'll need to resolve next session, which I won't be at. That may be a straightforward solve, actually, and also makes the play just shorter, which for a comedy is never a bad thing. Hey, for the comedy, let's cut the clown, because you know what, it'll be so much funnier.
'Twas ever thus.
Yeah. Anyway, let's finish the scene. I think there's some more awfulness coming, but there isn't much more scene. Anyway, to the scene with Dondolo and, in theory, having been betrothed or basically just Aurelia's just been given to him, which doesn't quite fully make sense because I don't think she's fully been integrated into their society. Anyway, enter father and governor.
Stop, fresh booties, gentlefolks, signorios, calavario, bucadelio.
Ah, gnombrel, a tumbrel.
How? Give me one word amongst you that I may be doing too.
Oh, yonder they are again. Oh, guiltiness, thou put'st more trembling fear into a maid than the first wedding night. Oh, take courage, wench. Thy face cannot betray thee with a blush now.
Which way she took her flight, sir, none can guess, or how she scaped.
Out at some widow, certainly.
Oh, 'tis a bold, daring baggage.
See, good fortune, sir. The gypsies. They're the cunningest people living.
They cunning? What a confidence have you, sir? No wise man's faith was ever set in fortunes.
You are the wilfulest man amongst all the learning still. I will be hanged now if I hear not news of her amongst this company.
You are a gentleman of the flattering hopes that ever lost woman yet.
Come, hither, gypsy.
Oh, luck now, or I'm undone. What says my master? Bless me with a silver cross, and I will tell you all your loss.
Know you there, sir? All my loss? That first word, too. There is no cunning in these gypsies now.
Sure, I'll hear more of this.
Here's silver for you.
Now attend your fortune story. You loved a maid.
Right.
She never loved you. You shall find my words are true.
Mass, I'm afraid so.
You were about to keep her in, but could not do it. Alas the while, she would not stay. The cough of the lungs blew her away, and which is worse, you'll be so crossed you'll never find the thing that's lost. Yet oftentimes your sight will fear her. She'll be near you, and yet you never the nearer. Let her go, and be the gladder. She'd but shame you if you'd had her. 10 counsellors could never school her. She's so wild, you could not rule her.
In troth, I am of thy mind, yet I fain find her.
Soonest then, when you least mind her. But if you mean to take her tripping, make but haste. She's now a shipping.
I never dreamt so much.
Hie to the quay, will mar your voyage. You shall brook no sea.
And exit father and governor.
Chitaroon, I gularoon.
Filcharoon, Persularoon. I can say somewhat too.
Excellent, gypsy. Witty, rare doxy.
I would not change my dell for a dozen of black bellwethers.
Our wealth swells high, my boys.
Our wealth swells high, my boys.
Let every gypsy dance with his doxy, and then drink for joy.
Let every gypsy dance with his doxy, and then drink for joy.
And then drink for joy, or just to forget. Exit with a strange, wild, fashioned dance to the oboes or cornets. End scene at last. Okay, I'm increasingly convinced that Dondolo is just a straightforward ad. Because it's like, father and governor come on, and the rest of the scene, we all just pause while the scene happens, and then they do their shtick again. It's the kind of insert that you can put into a script of, say, this is the scene we had before, you do your scene, here's your new entrance cue, you exit, everybody else just stand there going, ho, 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 and then the play moves on, minor tweaks to make it flow. I feel that's the thing. So what we have here is Aurelia is encountered in the woods, immediately pretends to do fortune telling, and then moves on. Now we can massage that a bit. I think we could find a way of coming up with a solution to that. I don't know what it is off the top of my head. But again, it also doesn't really matter. I don't know if that... It's not like they all leave together or anything. So, I mean, again, I'm projecting. I don't quite know where this is all going to go. But as father and governor don't properly interact, and she doesn't go with them, nobody's in a different place, I don't think any of that matters at all. Sarah, then Lynn.
I think I'm channeling Wind in the Willows here, but you could have her escape as a laundry woman, as a washerwoman, and then she could be a washerwoman who tells fortunes or something, because that's what washerwomen do. I don't know, but I'm sure there are ways that you could you say, massage it.
You make it a cunning folk type person.
Yeah,
and it's a Dame Sirius. It's
a sort of
the
old
wise
crone.
woman of Hogston.
Yes, exactly.
And that'll be fine. And that'll be because that just feels like that's what the play possibly originally was trying to do, and some things happened to this text. Because it's structurally really weird. Lynn.
Yeah, that's probably a better idea than what I was thinking, because I was thinking you would have to generate a lot of dialogue, which is always tricky because we don't talk the way they used to talk, like generating a lot of dialogue and not having the scenes show is really hard. But you could have them just run into her dressed as whatever, dressed as a boy, dressed as a peasant, whatever. Like, did you see, and have them ask, did you see this young woman? And she's like, no, why do you ask? And have them sort of unravel the story. Well, I want my daughter to marry this guy, but she doesn't want to. So why are you keeping her locked up? You really think that's going to work? And she just sort of has this conversation with them about, really, that just sounds like a terrible idea. And they think about it and they're like, yeah, you're right. Like, no good can come of forcing a young woman to marry someone she doesn't love. But have her be some sort of wise woman who has a fortune-telling ability, and seems to know things that she wouldn't have any way of knowing. Yeah, the wise woman of Hogden.
Yeah, because
in a male disguise as a hermit, something.
Yeah, I mean, all that she's really doing is going, have you seen her? She went that way.
Yeah.
And there is a gag to be got out of this, because of course the father recognised the disguise straight away the last time, and this time doesn't. So when she turns to the audience and go, "Oh no, for the love of God," there is actually that's a nice gag dropping in from earlier that I really quite like. So yeah, we might be able to interpolate. We might be able to just lift some stuff from The Wise Woman of Hogston, because it's a really good play, and I'm sure Thomas Hayward wouldn't mind. It was Hayward, wasn't it? So yeah, that'd be fine. We could do something with that. I feel that I'm going to foreshadow by saying there is an element of this plotline that will reappear later, which is a problem. And I'll give Sarah lots of notes on that for next time, because there are some things. Because I'm not running the room next session, so I'll just forewarn you, but I won't forewarn anyone else. So there is a little bit of tangling, flanging edges from this, but I suspect they're still from the original schema. I still think in the original scheme that she's supposed to be disguised as a gypsy, and that's the logic. I just suspect all of that business has been beefed up to a degree that probably wasn't in the original scheme. I suspect that's been completely rewritten to be a vehicle for Dondolo in a way that I'm not sure it was originally. I could be wrong. Might have all been original. Might have been the original plan. He was always there. It was always part of the idea. But it just feels so gear changey. It just feels out. Well, yeah. We have finished fairly early. I'm just wondering, can I do a quick cut and paste job on this? Can I just do the
yeah, we could just keep going and finish it tonight, and then you don't have to fill me in on anything.
No, we don't. We don't have, we don't have time for that. It's a full session, but it's a shorter than usual session. But it's still a chunky session. I'm afraid I couldn't make that work. It's all right. It's yeah. It's nice.
The next scene's long. It looks like.
Yeah, it's too chunky. I did debate with myself which way around to do it, but yeah. Anyway, final thoughts. Apart from the scene we've just done, and anything with Dondolo, where I kind of like occasional lines of his, but I just find him deeply, deeply annoying. I'm still enjoying this. I think there is a sense of a shape to it now that we've got where we are. I just don't know where the centre of gravity is going to land. I don't know where to put an interval yet, out of what we've just done. I think there may be some additional dramaturgical shaping we'd need to do to the second half anyways, which that shifts everything. We certainly want to trim back the Cardinal or make him speak faster. And yeah, there's a lot of little things there. But even with all of the massive problems that we've just stumbled over, I think there's definitely a play here. And I think one of the reasons why I'm really increasingly keen on this as a project is that it's a really nice companion piece to go with Women Beware Women. It's doing similar jobs of work, similar themes, but they are in a comedic sense rather than in a tragic sense. There's people being compelled to stay inside houses. There are people being compelled. There are people being compelled in various different ways. It's not a duke. It's a duchess. All sorts of interesting things are being negotiated, and I think they might make a really nice pairing, especially on a poster, because you could call it More Dissemblers Besides Women Beware Women. I can see how I'd tweak that. So yeah, connecting some Lake Middleton together is interesting me, because there's lots of, and actually there's bits of connection with Spanish Gypsy as well, which I cannot quite remember. I mean, there are lots of problematic things in that, but I do wonder whether there might be some places we might get some material to tidy up some of those edges as well. So yeah. Anyway, final thoughts. I've been nattering on. Let's stop that. Connor, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's still going along nicely, apart from we get the interruption of the silly clown. So get rid of him, and I think it will flow nicely.
Or at least workshop him to death, you know,
Yeah.
you know, and trim him back. Erin, any final thoughts?
Still enjoying it. Sad to hear. It's sad to me to cut it because I enjoy. Like the reason I like doing these readings is because I like seeing how a writer from this era writes, and so when you start cutting, you start to reshape like what a new audience member might see. So I'm always tempted to try and fight and defend all of the choices, but I really like it. I don't think we talked about it. I think the thing that jumped out at me the most that was compelling was the meeting between Lactantio and the Duchess, where I got this very strong, awkward sense from that scene of like, and here's two people who have absolutely no desire to hook up with each other. Like, it's just the scene starts and they've both kind of worked their way into this, and they're just like, what are we doing? And I kind of enjoyed that. I was like, we don't see that very often, where they're just like, we got to figure out something to do. You want to go have a fight with that guy? Yeah, go have that fight with that guy. That'll be good. Yeah, that's something we can do. That's not this awkward hookup neither one of us is into. So I enjoy it. I'm finding a lot more, I guess I would say, kind of psychological sophistication than I was expecting in this particular period. So it's really nice.
Yes, I think we could envisage a one-off reading / audio recording where we which is where we generally do things uncut, but because you could then curate an audience and you can flag up all the problems and work through it just to see how it functions. But I think if we're going to talk about this play as an actual going concern, as something you present to an audience who may just buy a ticket because they happen to be free that night, people don't read the blurb. Nobody reads the blurb. You've got to be. You can't just throw that kind of material out there and think, oh, it'll be fine. We'll get away with it. We wouldn't. Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, there's some interesting bits in among the superfluous material. I think Dondolo doesn't really seem to be performing much of a useful function beyond a few odd lines here and there, which I think could be otherwise allocated. Until, as ever, it's halfway through or 2/3 of the way through. It's going to depend on how the resolution comes. as to which bits we can actually blue pencil without causing serious damage.
I think looking ahead, I think this one's more straightforward. There is something I know coming up which will need a tweak, quite a big tweak. But I don't think structurally it's a massive problem. And I think we are getting the shape now. But yeah, until we get to the end of the Curse of the Final Session. The Curse of the Final Session is more going to be who gets married to whom and why, and whether we find any of those decisions satisfying. And I suspect that's where the problems will lie. But again, we can massage those things potentially. Lynn, any final thoughts?
My thoughts are basically what you were just talking about. That some of this is pretty darn funny, and the ironies are pretty satisfying. I mean, the situation where the Duchess has to pretend she's in love with Lactantio and he has to pretend he's interested in her, when really the fact that they're not interested in each other would serve them both if they could just tell that. I mean, I really enjoyed the irony of that. So, and I hope the Duchess gets what she wants. Andrugio seems like a decent guy. And he's a war hero, so he's the one we're supposed to admire. But Lactantio is such a scoundrel. He's such a manho. I don't really want Aurelia to be stuck with him. So, the play's going to have to do a kind of decent redemption job on him and find some satisfactory disposition for this poor young woman disguised as a page whom he's impregnated. And that's a big ask to get that situation resolved in a way that a modern audience is going to find satisfying. So I'm not super optimistic about that, but yeah, some of it is really clever, and I do really like the idea of somehow putting this in Women Beware Women in conversation with each other, because doing them on consecutive weeks has been really interesting.
Sarah, any final thoughts?
I'm kind of the anti-Aaron, really, because I just want to get these plays on their feet, and I think you have a format that you use, Rob, where you take these plays one stage at a time, and I think you could do that. You Beyond it to death with audio recordings of the original play, and as you say, curate them and do discussions with them, and discuss the problematic material, and get some responses to that, but then ultimately just cut it down and turn it into something workable, because the director in me does want to stage this like this is a fun play. Maybe I might hate it by the end of tomorrow. It's who knows. But so far, at least, it's a fun play, and I just really enjoy the fact that the women in this play are not kind of either virginal saints or wicked women. There's kind of overlap. There's depth of character and more than one dimension to them, which is rare. I think Aurelia is a really interesting character. The fact that she's this, she's fulfilling that kind of virginal heroine role, but she's really quite despicable in many ways. It makes me kind of root for her, even though she's kind of awful. And yeah, even the virtuous Duchess, actually all that yammering on that the Cardinal did yesterday, I'm like, oh God, there's just too much of this. But then it gets so gloriously undercut when the Duchess is like, oh, actually, I really fancy his pants. I'm gonna kidnap him, force him to marry me. I mean, so like even she has got this plot going on. So I'm just going to be very interested, as always, to see how it works out. And I will probably be disappointed, because I usually am, but I am ever the optimist.
Yes, that's that. It's almost like what we should just have a, we always hope for the best. Big sign, never desperately surprised when we're disappointed. Yeah, I mean, it's when we hit that scene in Act 4 where we hit a racial perspective. It's just and it's played throughout there when they're talking about they make this distinction between her when she was white and when she was browned up, and that is at play in this text, and it's just not going to happen unless you can find a really, really good way of making that be something that can be made as social commentary. But I don't see where you put that in a comedy of this nature. I don't see that you can do anything with that apart from remove it and or make a documentary about it. I don't think there's a middle ground. Alan?
Yeah, I think actually you may have hit on a potential way of dealing with it earlier, which was basically change the locale to England, put it in Sherwood Forest, and have a meet. What's her name? Come on, dressed up like Mother Shipton.
Yeah, I mean, there is a problem that Robin Hood doesn't really do future prediction. Doesn't do fortune telling. It's not really part of his shtick.
No, but Mother Shipton would.
Yeah, but again, I think we're muddling a lot of things there. I mean, I'm not saying you couldn't do it, but I think it's not a very clean. You'd have to change a lot of things about the text to make that fit. Though you can always put Robin Hood anyway, really. Anyway, I'm close this session now with something just to leave everyone with for next time, because this was revived at court, and this may be representative of that text at court in early 1624, and it was licensed, relicensed for that the year before, so presumably was in rep for a few months before turning up. It was relicensed by Sir Henry Herbert, who was the Master of the Revels, and is going to come a cropper in about 7 months' time after that performance at court, because in June he also licenses a play called A Game at Chess, because he clearly wasn't reading it properly. But he does actually say something about this play, and this is something that maybe Sarah can start next time with this thought, which is Sir Henry Herbert's opinion of More Dissemblers Besides Women. The worst play that e'er I saw. So, on that bombshell, I will be handing over to Sarah next time. And all that remains to thank all the wonderful readers for all the wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. She's a huge, wild creature.